Do we have much in closed, in executive session?
Two things.
Order. I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion.
We need to do the agenda first.
Okay.
Oh, the
so
agenda.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a
Call to order
motion.
is to the board workshop meeting, and agenda review and approval is first.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
I will second that.
Okay, I'd like to make one amendment to that. I'd like to reflect a statement regarding the January 6th meeting first.
Okay.
Second?
I will second that.
Very good, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
Okay.
Ayes have it.
I now
Okay.
make a motion that we,
So why don't I give the January... Okay, so at this point, I just like to make a statement on behalf of the board that on January 6th, when we recessed into executive session, at that time we failed to have a roll call vote. The vote was unanimous, but that it's been brought to our attention, and it's in fact our normal practice that for executive session we do have a roll call vote, and just wanted to acknowledge on behalf of the board that we had failed to do that, and we'll make sure we do it properly in the future.
I'm in agreement with that.
I'm in too.
Yep, yeah, thanks.
Right.
So I make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel, and I call on Sherry to do a roll call vote.
And I will second that.
Mrs. Doogan?
Thank you.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowell?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lord?
Yes.
Mr. Edison?
Yes.
Let's lock them up.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, we have our first opportunity for public comments. The school board welcomes questions, ideas, and comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may comment during the public comment portion of the meeting when recognized by the board president. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. We also ask that comments begin by providing your name, address, and school district in which you reside. Would anyone like to make a public comment at this time? Mr. Beck.
Dave Buck, 124 South Elm. First, I want to applaud the district administration, the board, for the 12-page document called Moving Toward Equity. But I have a couple of issues that I just wanted to share today, this evening. And they have to do with focus and priorities. The document as it stands right now, and I understand you may be working on this already, so I may be redundant, has 93 bullet points. I don't know an organization on earth that can do 93 bullet points really well. So I think you need to focus. In terms of priorities, here are my two as a district grandparent. The second one would be shutting down hate speech any way you can because of its destructive nature. You just have to stop it and eliminate it totally and not put up with it. But number one by far, to me, is closing the academic achievement gap between white and black students. Now, we talk a lot about breaking the pipeline between schools to prisons, right? That's all about discipline, all about expulsion and suspension and eliminating the penalties, right? And do more restorative stuff. But consider the gap that starts here, K through 12, an academic gap. Goes to a greater, higher education gap, which goes to an employment gap, which goes to an income gap, which goes to a success gap, which goes to a housing and location gap, which goes to a poverty gap, and for some people, to a crime gap, and then to a prison gap. This pipeline, to me, is much bigger than the pipeline of schools to prisons that we are most used to. The reason is because schools, where learning and knowledge is power, racism, I finally got it. Racism is not the problem. Racism is not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy of knowledge. And if we don't educate these kids properly, I think they are destined and doomed to follow that pipeline. And we can do it. And here's why. There are 13,500 public school districts in the United States serving 100,000 individual schools. I went online today, did a little research. Who's breaking the code? Who's cracking the code of the achievement gap? The point is, there are districts and schools around this country that aren't alone from you guys, and they are doing the job. And this achievement gap has existed how many years? You all know better than me. Years, decades. But we let it go on. And we have so much talent and potential in this district, we can stop it. We can close it if we want to. It is the biggest racial inequity in this district, bar none, to me. And I hope we get busy and focus on, if that's the only thing we do, we will have done this district and our kids a great service.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beck. Other public comments? Okay, at this time, we have, you have a copy of the correspondence log in your packet. Anybody have any additions, corrections to that? Okay, seeing none. Next item, celebrations from the Board of Education. Jean, would you like to start us off?
Of course. Is this on? Okay. First off, I want to recognize all the volunteers for the district, people like Bruce who serve on committees, all the PTOs that are doing fundraisers this winter and spring. It's just tremendous. And especially I think of Keita Quinn and Christine Keller, the two women who filed for school board. There doesn't need to be an election. Since there's 2 for 2 slots, they can be sworn in April. And I think they'll both be wonderful additions to our board. They'll be working on issues like equity. So I'm very happy about that. And I have to mention the marketing class. Went to New York. No, I just want to mention 81,000 steps and 40 plus miles of walking. That was not a goof off trip.
Yeah, no.
That's it.
Oh, Joe, sorry.
I went to the MLK celebration, as did Steve, and it was unbelievably well attended. I think it represented the district well. It was great to see the singers from Avery, the high school Amen group, and the keynote speaker was really, I mean, all the speakers were good, but I think the keynote speaker made you think of things in a completely different way, at least for me. So anyway, it was a really well attended, good event, so it was good to see.
Trinity?
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Leffridge on the All Right interns. They finalized the All Right Writers Festival schedule and lineup, and we have more writers than ever, so great.
Awesome. David?
I'll pass.
Steve?
Piggyback on the MLK, John's involvement representing the district on there is always greatly appreciated, and I know Sarah's involvement prior to that. That's something that I think is great, that our superintendents are very involved in that program. Emerson was also there in attendance at the event. The one that I really want to point out is John and Dr. Wiley's involvement in the Webster Gross Shares event that took place on Saturday the 13th. I was there just kind of interested in see what kind of involvement we had as a district and an interest level from interested candidates. And I was really super excited to see not only a large number of our staff members who took a long time out of their day on Saturday to be proponents and advocates and represent our district really well to the potential candidates. I was super excited to see all the rooms filled with potential candidates of all levels of interest, in whether it wasn't just African American candidates, we had older candidates, we had younger candidates, we had new graduates, we had people who'd been teaching for a long time. And it was just super to see the depth and breadth of the people that were there to show their interest in our district as potential employers for themselves. So again, kudos to the folks who put it together, kudos to the folks who participated in it, and gosh, I hope we get some good folks coming to apply to us for our open positions in the future.
Awesome.
Me?
Yeah. It's you.
Just one other comment about the MLK ceremony. It was great. But I also want to bring attention to the program that Chuck and Laura Reynolds brought to the school. They founded a program that would take at least two students and their parents to Washington, D.C. to the African American History Memorial Museum. So that was, I want to thank Chuck and Laura for shielding that, starting that for our school, and it was specifically for our African American kids. So just thank them again for their interest.
And then, yeah, I want to recognize Kara Seeby and the marketing trip that she does for the seniors every year. I've sat here for, I guess this is my 7th year now, and heard about this trip, and I'm always like, yeah, that sounds great. But until I had a kid actually go through it, and part of my thinking, I'll admit, was kind of like, well, that sounds great, but it's really expensive, and not everybody can afford to do that. Well, first of all, she fundraises all year long for this, and so anybody who wants to has an opportunity to attend. My daughter ended up saving her babysitting money so that she could go, and she said right before the trip, she said, I'm afraid I'm going to regret this because I'm going to be broke after this, and I hope it was worth it. Well, she came back, and I said, was it worth it? First of all of the steps you're talking about, those kids were on and going not 24 hours a day, but all day. They really, really worked hard. And she said it was the most amazing experience she's ever had, and I give credit to Kara for this because the opportunities they have to meet with Fortune 500 companies, they stay in amazing places, they have amazing benefits in terms of restaurants and going to a basketball game and things like that. But one thing that stuck with me is Ali said that the tour guide is a professional. The tour guide they had is a professional tour guide, and so he does this for a living. And he told them, he said, I do these tours all the time, and the tour offered for you guys, the one you guys get to do, is by far the most impressive program that I have ever seen offered. And that's because of the connections that Kara's made over the years. That doesn't just happen. So I was just really thrilled, and Ali was too, and she had a great time, and it really could potentially, I think, influence a lot of kids' futures. I mean, they are exposed to things they might not have otherwise ever seen or done. So very exciting.
That's awesome.
All right, that's all. Celebrations from administrators.
Kathy, do you have any?
Yes, I have a few. The class of 1963 has met and exceeded its fundraising goal of $63,000 for college and scholarship funding for high school, and this was a goal they set at their 50th reunion. And congratulations to high school student Nicholas Brown, who has received a perfect score on the ACT. He is the second high school student this year to get a perfect score. That's news.
I wanted to add a few things. First of all, this last week, the Social Justice Club of Webster Groves High School had a week for social justice. One of the primary focus areas for that was the students who participate in the Anti-Defamation League. The training went in and facilitated a lot of learning opportunities and discussions around things related to cultural awareness, race, diversity, perceptions, assumptions. And there was a lot of different students that went into a lot of classrooms. And I got to go sit in a bunch, and they did an absolutely phenomenal job. The students were ready to present, facilitate, and the high school students, by and large, were prepared to participate. The students will be going through the rest of the year. They'll do this through the rest of the year. It's very hard because these students have pretty heavy caseloads, so they can't just leave class as much as they would like to, but they are going to be doing this for the rest of the year at Webster Groves High School. They're also going to be going to other schools. They're also going to be working with parent groups. They're going to be at the Bristol Equity Group in a few weeks here. So huge kudos to those students and to the planners of the event and the leadership for making that happen, creating a space for that to happen. January 3rd, Chris's team, we did professional development for pre-K through 6. And so we had faculty at those levels engaging in development on a range of different topics, all supportive of the district vision, but all within a context of interest to the teachers and the administrators participating, and that went really well. Again, highlighting, Steve did a great job, so I won't say much. The Webster Shares event was phenomenal. I think it was brilliantly designed. It was a space where people could come together and get to know one another. Traditional hiring fairs are sitting across from the table and just grilling people with questions. And this was much more of a let's get to know one another a little bit. There was a lot more of a give and take. We had leaders from around the district, teachers that were teaching people about what does our vision look like in the classroom. There was a session related to equity, what makes us unique in St. Louis County, partnership with special school district. And again, there was one-on-one dialogue. And we also gave feedback to people on their resumes if they were looking for it. So like Steve said, we had some people that were coming from our St. Louis County, and not just St. Louis County school districts, already in jobs that want to explore Westwood grows. Then we had people that were very new. And so it was, I think they've expressed a great benefit to again, all the opportunities that they had. So kudos to Sandy and her team for that. And then just also, lastly, this is Missouri School Board Week. So just wanted to acknowledge the Board of Education, including Arnold not being here tonight, for your efforts. Those of us that are in public education know that what we have is unique in terms of we have individuals that all come with different skills and talents, and have a same level of care for our children. And you always put our children first. There are, not that other boards don't care about kids, but there are a lot of people who bring out their own self-interest who don't function as well as this board does. So this community is truly blessed to have you working together to govern and lead us into the future. So thank you for all your efforts. Very appreciative.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Okay.
Nothing special about board calendar.
Okay, yeah, board calendar is listed for your review, unless anybody has any revisions or comments to make about that. Next up, draft plan for board public engagement opportunities. Kathy B.
Good evening. Sherry and I, in collaboration with Jean, have put together some suggestions for you to consider to support your public engagement efforts. And you'll note each of you should have a sheet that we have expanded the range geographically to reach different areas. We've got some farther east in Old Orchard, as well as Lucky's in Rock Hill, and then others on that list. Anyway, and a range of times in hopes of reaching more people. We also suggest that you give this a friendly, kind of appealing name. And one consideration might be Let's Talk. And you may not like that, you might think of something else. And Sherry, our talented Sherry, put together some graphics that we could use with it. So take a look at those, and we're happy to take your suggestions, toss them out, do something completely different. But we thought that this might be a help in promoting the activity. Lastly, you might want to consider surveying people and ask them what times they like, as well as asking what kind of questions they have, and we could use that as we move forward.
Jean, did you have anything to add?
Just February 4th is Super Bowl Sunday, so we need to think about that as we
We
think it's
talked about that.
2:30
We
to
were thinking lots of
4:30.
people would be shopping.
Yeah, it might be good because the game starts at 5.
If
A little
anything,
bit
we might
later.
want to bump
Usually
it.
5:30, doesn't it?
Okay, anyway, I think, mixing up the times and
Yeah.
locations, but keeping it to a Sunday is a good way to reach out to more people.
Okay.
So consider it and let us know what you think.
It's kind of a first draft look. Is there any other feedback that you have?
So I like the idea that, so what you're saying is basically every other month, so you've got 4 listed here, and every other month you'll use the St. Louis Bread Company location, but then you'll try to add some times for some others, and I think that's good. So we're sort of saying every other month, it's there, and then keep your eye open. I noticed Jim's here. I'm sure the Webster Copeland Times is going to, will do a good job of letting everybody know when we're doing this. Thank you for your publicity. Make a big story out of it in that case. The key obviously is just getting out. I love the idea of the logo. I like that a lot.
Which one do you prefer?
I like the speech bubble.
I like the speech bubble. Okay, I
It's
like
bolder.
the speech bubble as well.
I like both.
I mean, they're both
I like
nice.
both too.
If you're going to make
We
the
use
pick.
both. I mean, we can use them.
Yeah, I like them both. Yeah. And in the interest of, given the fact that we won't be meeting again until after the February 4th date, I can volunteer to be at that one if anybody else would like to join me.
Yeah, that's right. We
Super
don't
Bowl
have another
Sunday doesn't
meeting.
bother me. I'm not a sports person at all anyway.
I'm not anymore.
All right.
Boycott the NFL.
I'm a Vikings fan, that's right.
No, I like Olympics market, so I'm also,
I like this.
I volunteered to work at that one.
I can do it.
I can do it too.
You can do it too? Want to do the three of us?
Sure. Okay, here we go. Sounds good.
Send us an invite, Sherry.
Who's the last one?
Joe, me, and Steve.
And me.
Let's see. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Kathy.
Good deal, thanks, guys. Okay. Reports from superintendent and staff. Mr. Ellerman.
Good evening, and thank you. Tonight, we are asking the board to approve moving forward with a district-wide comprehensive condition assessment of all buildings and improvements. Because of the size and scope of this assessment, the district requires outside assistance to complete it. Given the district's nearly 900,000 square feet of facility space, representing a replacement cost of over $150 million, and it's literally acres of parking lots, athletic fields, and play areas, this will be a major undertaking that is scheduled to require about 3 months to finish. This project is in direct support of one of the board's major operational goals for 2017-18, which states, develop a comprehensive facilities plan in support of maintaining existing facilities and grounds and prioritizing future needs and wants. Development of such a plan requires the creation of a database including detailed and current information regarding the current condition of all district facilities and their major systems and components, including their expected useful lives, where they are in their life cycles, and the estimated timing and cost of anticipated future repairs and replacement. This organic database will be a living and breathing document which then can be used to identify and prioritize facilities, projects, and funding needs each year going forward, and can continuously be updated as future maintenance, replacement, and repair projects are completed. The district recently completed a several months long request for qualifications, request for proposals process that culminated in the vendor, EMG Corporation, being recommended for board approval this evening. Joining me this evening in making this recommendation are other members of the selection committee, including Mr. Bruce Wood. He's the chair of the district's building advisory committee, and at this time I'd just like to publicly acknowledge the tireless and critical work that he put in. While it would be enough for him to just simply serve in his capacity as the Building Advisory Committee Chair, he truly went far above and beyond any reasonable expectation in further volunteering to guide and assist the district in developing the RFP, RFQ specifications and in coordinating the proposal evaluation process. If there were an award for Volunteer of the Year, Bruce would have my nomination. We also members of the evaluation committee that are here, Mr. Matt Palmer, Director of Facilities, and Mr. Rob Stuber, our construction manager. I guess the final member, Cindy Dimmick, as a member of the Building Advisory Committee, was unable to make it and join us this evening. But also here with us this evening is Mr. Jeff Fox. He's the Senior Vice President of EMG Corporation. We're pleased to be recommending EMG Corporation to the board this evening to perform the facilities condition assessment services based on EMG having the highest evaluation rating by the selection committee, EMG being highly recommended and experienced, performing literally millions of square feet of facilities condition assessment work for public school districts across the country each year. And EMG's pricing proposal was within the district's allocated budget for this study. Pending the board's approval this evening, work will begin tomorrow with completion to be in mid-April. This time, the floor is open for any questions.
It was not a local company, but will they be based out of Oklahoma City, or how far a travel will it be for EMG to do
I
this?
believe EMG is located out.
Yeah,
Which office?
EMG's a nationwide company.
Right, I recognize that.
So we have 2 brick and mortar offices. One is Scottsdale, Arizona. The other one is just outside of Baltimore, Maryland. That houses about 75 of our 600 employees. So the rest of those employees are home offices in 43 states across the U.S. So that's our makeup. We do regional and local. It's the best person that meets the needs of the job. But yeah, yes, we do have, I don't have an exact number. We have at least 10 people in the area.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And I think I noted that included in this bid, the travel expenses are included in the bid.
In the bid and in the recommendation and the amount that's being recommended, the travel expenses are included, and that's a not to exceed amount, correct?
I didn't make a comment. I'm supportive of this type of study. It will help us in our short-term and long-term planning for structural construction to make our buildings sound. It's a good move.
And everything that, and once this is all done, this is all going to be presented to the board and will become sort of a matter of public record, will it?
That's correct.
Okay, good. So I think it is, again, I think we get questions from the community a lot, you know, as we've gone and we've asked for money for various things, as we've gone and reallocated money from bonds and things like that. I think it's important that we demonstrate, you know, we are good stewards, and this is a good way, I think, of saying this is why we're prioritising as we are. So
yeah,
I applaud you for doing this. I second what Emerson is saying. I think it's a great plan.
The intent is to present the board at its meeting in April with this final report, yes.
Might I suggest it's because there is a lot of community interest in this, we might even consider moving that to the service centre. We might even sort of try to go and get sort of word out in advance. I think this is something that has the potential to attract a lot more people from the community to it. And so if we can, you know, we can try to sort of give people a chance to go and see. And I think, I'm springing this on you, but I think it would be a worthwhile thing. I think it would be appreciated.
We may have new board leadership at that point, so John, if you'll make a note of that.
I think that's a great suggestion.
What, new board leadership?
So. I think it's an excellent suggestion.
Other questions, Jean?
I just want to comment that our strategic plan has sustainability as, you know, one of our focuses, and the idea of not only environmental sustainability, what you're doing with all the new lights and that kind of thing, but here looking at our buildings and how do we keep them in good working order, what needs to be done to make sure that we have the best possible spaces for our students to learn, I think is really an important step.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be an opportunity to use this report, going back to David's comment, as a community engagement. You know, here's what it is. So they can actually see exactly what the report would tell them and what's needed to be done in the district.
Yeah, one of the last times we had an open house, I know specifically it was at PV Commons at the high school, this kind of thing was actually mentioned as a part of what was going to probably be a long-range plan and an action item. And I think obviously that was well attended, and I think this would be a good follow-up to say, that's what we talked about doing, and as one of the things, and here it is.
Yeah.
So.
Do we need a motion?
Do you need anything from us at this point? Oh, yeah, we do.
I need the approval of the recommended vendors.
We have
Is there a consent agenda item?
It's an action.
The motion is listed, if you can look on your electronic version, it's got the recommended.
Oh.
I have a quick question. Bruce, how long have you been on this committee?
I was sitting here trying to think, it's been at least 15 years.
Oh, it's been longer than that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been knowing you longer than that myself.
I don't see it, but
Anybody
can
have-
I make a
don't see
motion that we
Yeah,
approve the bid of EMG Corporation to do the study as proposed?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, thanks, Jean.
Great job, guys.
Yes, much needed. Okay, at this time, we have our second opportunity for public comments. Would anyone like to make a comment? Mr. Beck?
Again, Jean just mentioned the strategic plan, and I think it's coming up soon, isn't it? John, we're going to relook it, rethink it, reexamine it. And in that regard, I just want to share a comment, which is, and first with a question, which is, have you ever been around a family, either at high school graduation or college graduation, where the dad or the mom has said, This is the first one of our kids who has graduated from college or who has gone to college. First one in our generation of the family who have gone to college. How does that make the parents feel? How does that make the kid feel? And I've been thinking about this because I've had 6 kids. They have gone to Emory, Wake Forest, Tulane, SMU, and Stanford. Great schools. But the point is that that was always the goal. There was never any other goal. The goal was to go to college. And, you know, our district has a really good track record of kids going to college, anywhere from like 92 to 95%. I simply think that the district should make one goal, that every graduate of Webster Groves High School goes to college. Now, that goal may not always be achieved, but it can still be a goal to get there. Because we know, the data is clear. If a kid goes to college, there are opportunities for greater jobs and employment and career. Their earning power is significantly higher. Their chances for greater success in life. And see, the thing is, if I went around the table and asked you the question about our mission statement, how do you define academic and personal success? I think I'd get some different answers. They wouldn't be consistent. To me, academic success for our students is that if every one of our graduates could go to college and get a college education, that would be awesome. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Other public comments? All right, at this time, I will take a motion to
So before we move
Yes,
on to
sir.
the consent agenda, I just wanted, could we...
we would have had, okay, I'm
No,
anticipating your question.
No, okay. What I was going to do is, could John or somebody make a statement about item 9.03, which is the agreement with Webster Groves and the Lions? I know that we've seen stuff coming out about it. I was just looking in advance of that. I wasn't looking to question
I
it, to vote on it.
apologize, I did not
All I wanted to
correctly
do was
anticipate your question.
all I wanted to do was
Sure.
to suggest, could we just, given that we have that there and that given we have our guest and everything
Yeah,
else, I
so
think this works.
item 9.03 is the consent to enter into an agreement with the city and the Lions Club for the use of Mossfield parking lot for the carnival for the summer of 2018. It's a 1-year agreement. The terms of the agreement are exactly as they were last year, just changes in the dates and the time.
Also, the agreement itself is a public record if anybody would like to.
Yeah, it's on our website.
So I'd like to make
Thanks,
the
David, I
first
apologize.
two motions.
Yes.
First motion being that we accept and approve agenda items, consent agenda items 9.01, 9.02, 9.03, 9.04, and 9.05.
Great.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I would then further move that we approve consent agenda item 9.07 that was separate on our agenda.
All right, so moved.
I'll second that as well.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And just to clarify, for those of you who may be wondering why we're doing those as 2 separate motions, Dr. Stricker's spouse was to receive a check as part of the consent agenda, and to avoid any appearance of impropriety, we recommend a separate motion so that he could abstain from one, but then he wasn't able to be here tonight due to a family emergency.
And we didn't see a need to change the agenda as it was presented.
Right. So that's what that's about. Okay.
So then I would further move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Thanks, y'all.
You just